Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.
Well, I'll be a fun mechanic based on typing Latin. I await the epic RPG employing trigonometry. Divinity original sign. Dds. Absolute punishment. Welcome to Rome, Seedy seat of power of the church, and home of our hero Ray Bibbia. He's one of those classic ex-priest characters, prone to vice and made a bit more extreme by the fact that he performs exorcisms, using holy bullets, or hollets, maybe, to annihilate evil. Or, as he did at the start, a fairly petty criminal. In this game you use the pen and not the sword. Quill, rather, you read from a Bible. So it's a typing game, dispatching various demonic forces in the form of a boss rush, with story in between, defeating one after the other. But unlike, say, Epistory, you have to move around while you type, because the game is also a bullet hell at the same time. Fitting. While moving around and dodging the projectiles, you type out the sentence you're reading, and once it is completed, a holy bullet is shot at the enemy, damaging them and signaling a next phase in the fight, with new dangers and a new pattern to disseminate. At least the hollets automatically home in on your enemy and you don't have to actually aim them. Usually. And as is to be expected, each boss becomes tougher and tougher with more curveballs to throw at you. One of those wrenches is the fact that, as mentioned, later on you will have to type in Latin. Not that typing in English makes it that much easier. Other times the letters are in a font that's difficult to read, or even upside down. This game is hard. You may be able to get through the first few levels using your basic typing skills, but after a certain point you will require no-look typing, performed at a decent speed. Because there is a time limit, and if you exceed it, you die. And if you don't possess these skills, you probably won't be able to complete the game. I wasn't able to. Novice typists are not welcome, especially since one hand has to be on the arrow keys in order to move. Or you can pick the scheme where you have to hold in shift while pressing WASD, and you can change what letters you use for movement using that scheme. But this option effectively removes them from play while you hold in shift. Try keeping all that straight while remembering the enemy pattern, while reading what you have to type, and then actually typing it. And that's excluding looking at the keyboard if your skill level is as low as mine. And if you make a mistake, a successful letter you've typed is removed, and you lose a bit of progress. But while difficult, it is absolutely brilliant, innovative, and theme appropriate. It's really cool. It's just a touch too hardcore for some of us. Some people wonder whether games can actually help you learn practical skills. Maybe this can be a fun, brilliant aid to typing practice. The final piece of the puzzle being a reasonable enough sounding argument as to why you should be allowed to install this on a public school computer. Lastly, on the gameplay front, you do have health. You lose a hit point every time you get hit while not holding the Bible. Get hit while you're still holding it and it gets flung away, and it ricochets like flubber, or at the very least, it has more bounce than the book should. You then have to pick it up before you get hit. Musically, it's cool too, varied and quality tracks, but always sinister in theme. Plus, they're always cool. Makes the showdowns epic. Made me bob and type. Visually, it's pretty good too. A very detailed pixel art style. Quite thin lines. It's almost as though they used the standard pixel art style, made a bunch of larger areas, and then simply zoomed out to capture the entire area in one go. Tiny pixels. Plus, they designed a really seedy version of Rome. I think it might be future Rome or something, where the church has more power than it has now. Plus it has some extreme and varied demon design. Lastly, let's talk about the story. As mentioned, I didn't complete the game. But I suppose there was enough there to make me feel displeased that I gave up. A disgraced, jaded freelance priest who struggles with guilt. Sort of like a very blunt and heavy-handed version of Constantine that uses a corny gag or two. There's not a lot to the story, but in all fairness, there isn't much game to play. It's short, focused, niche, cool. Fairly unique. It took me 6 hours to complete about half of the game, I believe. maybe 6 out of 10 of the bosses. The game is cheap on Steam, 105 Rand full price, 21 Rand on sale. That's 3 Rand 50 per hour of gameplay, which isn't amazing, but it's pretty good, especially when you consider that you can get more hours out of it if you actually complete it, if you're confident in your typing ability. And it also has a small download size, as it only takes up 455 megabytes on the hard drive. And it works on the Warhorse quite fine. Is it kid-friendly though? Well, it does encourage typing skills, but it is a bit violent, a bit sweary, mentions sex work, one of the bosses displays nudity, and there's a gag in it that even Ray Bibbia himself considers to be stereotypic, or at the very least involves a stereotypic depiction of Japan. It's a pretty weird gag. The game has a really nice, detailed, dark pixel art style that gives us a nice dystopian Italy without beating you over the head with it. It has great music that's quite varied and upbeat, quite sinister, makes the fights epic. You'd bob more to it if you didn't have to type. The music just makes it cool. And it has rather epic boss rush gameplay. On the maybe side, it is very niche, it's very focused. I mean, it's cool and unique too, but not everyone is going to get the beauty and brilliance of a typing bullet hell set in an alternate timeline Italy. Although I did read a review recently that said this game is similar to Typing of the Dead. Although from looking at photos, I think it's a bit closer to Epistory, more about typing speed than that combined with dodging. The only real con that this game has is that it's only really completable by people with decent typing skills. And it doesn't really train you in the basics of typing or anything, it assumes you already know that. It's a hard game. Come on, play it, and see perhaps the most involved way ever, in the entire history of video gaming, of selecting an option in a menu. Oh wait, I forgot text-based adventure games existed. You know, I assumed that a game named Super Trench Attack with a World War I aesthetic would have more trenches. It's got bunkers and sandbags, but very few trenches. It's war. And you're on the grey, green, olive, British-inspired side? A new recruit selected to be a one-man army. Well, you've got Buddy to help. You fight the Black Army, who wear all black, and decided to invade your country. You're a little stiff, but quick and use your pistols, rifles, and grenades to defeat them. Use the ouse and aim at them. Aim for the head and get a headshot with increased damage. Aim for the feet and get a foot shot. Incapacitate them for a while using the power of Slapstick. It's also useful for dealing with shielded enemies. Although pulling these shots off are kinda finicky, with the isometric view and small targets, but arguably it's a pleasant surprise that you can practice such fine aim from this viewpoint at all. You go on to different areas and complete objectives, sometimes engaging in shooting gallery stages, that are somehow also finicky, even though now you use a first-person viewpoint. But it's definitely fun. The game also has an economy and an RPG system. Level up by killing enemies, and then spend skill points. Pick up items from the floor and equip them if they're not redundant, otherwise sell them for gold and buy better stuff. More like buying upgrades really. Progressively stronger variants of the items you already have get offered to you. And the leveling up and skill point system isn't the most satisfying or deepest either. There are only 4 stats to pour skill points into after all. But the store does give other upgrades you can buy though. And that need for cash does give an excuse for some lovely secrets to find. Some reward you in treasure, other in keepsakes for the tent. They don't benefit you, it's just fun. It's fun to decorate, even if it's in a predetermined fashion. They're like trophies. Ooh, an ashtray. So essentially it's a fairly simplistic twin-stick shooter. It's actually quite arcady, suitable for short playtimes. Unfortunately, the game isn't long, so if the game's gonna annoy you, it's not gonna annoy you for long. How's the story? There's not much. It has a couple of gags, very mild gags. The sight gags are better though. Again, slapstick and use the cartoony graphics well. And the visual style's nice. Kind of grungy caricatures. I found it charming, kind of reminded me a bit of Metal Slug. Except not as refined, energetic or colorful. It's really grey. But it works because this is about World War I. Sort of. And the animations are quite limited. As I said, stiff. Like for military, I'm sure an odd DLC crossover with the 4th season of Blackadder wouldn't be that out of place here. I mean, for all we know, Buddy was portrayed by Rowan Atkinson the entire time. So, all in all, this game isn't groundbreaking or anything, but it is cheap on Steam. 42 Rand full price, 8 Rand 40 on sale. And that means that even though it only took me 4 hours to complete the game, the value for money clocks in at 2 Rand 10 cents per hour of gameplay. And that's quite nice. And to download it is quite small, as it only takes up 208 megabytes on the hard drive. And the game does run on the Warhorse, but it's surprisingly high maintenance there. I mean, it plays well, but it forces windowed mode. And I believe when I tried to force full screen, or something, it said video card not supported, then forced the full screen, resulting in the mouse refusing to reach the horizontal edges of the screen. But after selecting an older resolution, or maybe monitor aspect ratio, I'm not sure. I think there's a chance it was both. Followed by clicking maximize, I think that worked. But I still had to hide the taskbar below, because if I didn't, the mouse still trailed onto it. So it does work on the Warhorse, it's just high maintenance. Surprisingly high maintenance. And if you want to be cynical, not worth it. Hopefully something slightly newer or slightly stronger would eradicate the problem completely. My gaming PC had no such problems with it. At least stereotypically it is okay for kids. The worst things in it are the fact that you can find a slightly risque poster for the tent, and your character once teases someone for dressing in stereotypically female clothing. Other than that, I don't think it has any problems. The game has a nice cartoony pixel art style, with nice slapstick sight gags. But I understand a lot of people cannot stand slapstick, in spite of how well the gags and the style gel. The shooting gallery stages are quite fun, and the rest of the gameplay is rather serviceable. All in all, the gameplay is rather simplistic, clunky, and finicky. And the game does have some nice secrets to find. Not hilarious Easter eggs or anything, just decorations for your tent. I suppose the fun lays more in where those decorations are hidden. It's a nice jolt finding them there. I believe a lot of times they're not really on the path to the main quest, which gives the game a sort of surprisingly open world quality. On the maybe side, the game doesn't really have a story, not much of it anyway. Some mildly amusing dialogue at times. Those side gags do the legwork usually. On the con side, the RPG and economic system of the game doesn't really add much. Some may argue that it would have been better to just go full on arcady. Leave those elements out and add something else. Maybe power-ups or something. I suppose at the end of the day, the game isn't really bad, but there's not that much here to recommend it. Sure, if you want to be harsh, there's a lot of mediocrity here. But I maintain it's worth a try at that price. Come on, play it. For no other reason than it's a World War I inspired game where you can fight pirates.
Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.